From an early age, man is conditioned to believe that effort is the measure of his dignity. He hears that hard work builds character, that sweat makes him worthy, and that enduring wait in silence is proof of value. This belief was not designed to free him, but to domesticate him. Institutions, mentors, and even the leaders he admires repeat the same narrative. Work more, sleep less, sacrifice yourself. What appears to be honor is, in truth, a social engineering of containment, a sophisticated form of control that turns man into fuel for the very system that despises him. Hard work was not created for the strong, but to keep them busy. When effort becomes the core of one's identity, the mind ceases to seek direction. The exhausted man does not question, plan, or observe. He merely executes, believing that recognition will come as a divine reward for his loyalty to routine. What he fails to realize is that the world does not reward those who sacrifice. It rewards those who position themselves. Sweat is the disguise of impotence. True merit belongs to those who think, calculate, and command. Machiavelli would have understood this with clarity. He observed that political virtue lies not in the purity of effort, but in the ability to manipulate the movement of others. The ruler who tries to do everything himself becomes vulnerable. The one who uses the labor of others keeps his power intact. The modern mistake is to confuse productivity with mastery. The crowd takes pride in how much it works, without realizing that pride itself is part of the trap, the applause of the weak to justify their own captivity. Blind devotion to work creates a moral illusion that suffering purifies. But suffering only purifies when it is voluntary and strategic, not when it is imposed by a system that rewards obedience. The man who brags about working hard rarely knows who he is truly working for. His energy is drained to build empires that do not include him, enrich minds that manipulate him, and sustain structures that keep him invisible. He believes he is virtuous, but he is merely well-conditioned. Effort is only useful when it serves strategy. The rest is waste disguised as honor. True power demands coldness, knowing when to act, when to wait, and when to let others fight for you. The man who confuses movement with progress is a prisoner of his own body. The one who understands the game conserves strength and multiplies influence. Virtue is not in working hard, but in working consciously. Effort without direction is noise. Calculated silence is empire. Machiavelli would never praise the man who works hard, but the one who achieves results with the least exposure. For him, the value of an action does not lie in the purity of intention or the volume of effort, but in the cold efficiency with which a goal is reached. History does not remember who tried the most, but who won. That is the essence of strategic thought, measuring power not by sacrifice but by impact. Sweat may appear noble, but it is irrelevant before consequence. In the game of power, effort is merely a currency the weak spend to appear deserving. The modern man, conditioned by the morality of labor, still believes that difficulty grants legitimacy. He measures his worth by the pain he endures rather than the intelligence with which he acts. This makes him predictable, manipulable, and useful. While he seeks recognition for his dedication, strategists observe, calculate, and harvest the results of his toil. The world rests upon this silent hierarchy. Few think, many execute, and those who think have learned to turn the fatigue of others into their own advantage. Machiavelli would call this virtue, not a moral virtue, but a political skill, an inner strength that dominates external chaos. Virtue is the ability to act according to circumstances without being dominated by them. It is the understanding that the morality of work was created for subjects, not for princes. The prince works less, but decides more. He takes no pride in fatigue. He takes pride in the results he obtains through the fatigue of others. And that is precisely what separates the strategist from the servant. The former measures the distance traveled, the latter how much it hurt to walk. Hard work may earn superficial respect, but never authority. Authority is born from effectiveness, from the power to do what others attempt and fail. Effort without result is a form of faith, and faith is the refuge of the powerless. The man who understands Machiavelli abandons the need to appear diligent and begins to operate in silence, measuring his greatness by the effects he produces, not the gestures he displays. He understands that society values the appearance of virtue, and he uses that appearance as a tool, not as a prison. There is a class of men who take pride in their own exhaustion. They display it like a trophy. believing that fatigue is a sign of moral worth. They are the modern slaves, disciplined, productive, but mentally domesticated. They work more than anyone else, yet have less time, less freedom, and less voice. They call it honesty, but what they truly demonstrate is submission. The system has learned to reward obedience with praise, and man confuses praise with respect. Thus, the cycle of exhaustion perpetuates itself, not through strength, but through vanity. The exhausted man believes he is indispensable, when in truth he is merely functional. Society conditions him to associate value with utility, and he becomes a cog in a machine that does not belong to him. The more he works, the more predictable he becomes. It is easy to manipulate those who have no time to think. Those who control the game understand this well. They offer symbolic recognition to keep the servant in motion. A title, a bonus, a vague promise of promotion, bait thrown to trap minds proud of their own servitude. The exhausted man feels he is advancing, yet only deepens the labyrinth. Machiavelli would have understood this phenomenon precisely. He observed that the people seek security, while the ruler seeks control. The modern worker is the perfect citizen. He craves stability, endures discomfort, and fears freedom. He is the ideal subject because he confuses suffering with merit. The prince, on the other hand, understands that power is born from distance. It does not mingle with sweat. It manages it. The class of the exhausted is useful, but invisible. It builds empires, but never signs its name. What they call honor is merely a consolation prize for those who never dared to stop. Exhaustion has become a moral currency. Those who rest are judged. Those who question are labeled lazy. This inversion was intentional. The more a man feels guilty for resting, the easier it is to keep him submissive. Power loves the busy, because the busy do not observe, and to observe is the first step toward breaking the illusion. The man who begins to see the pattern realizes that it is not the lack of effort that traps him, it is the effort itself. He has been trained to run in circles, believing that speed is progress, when in truth it is only distraction. The exhausted never realize they are working for a game they do not control. They are kept in the ideal state of docility, too tired to rebel, yet hopeful enough to continue. And when they grow old, they call their own depletion a legacy. Machiavelli would have smiled coldly at such a scene. He would know that honesty without strategy is a form of weakness, and that true power belongs not to those who sacrifice, but to those who know when to stop. In the end, the class of the exhausted stands as a reminder. Hard work without direction is not virtue. It is silent consent to one's own enslavement. The men who rule the world are not those who work the hardest, but those who understand the value of other people's movement. Delegation is not laziness, it is dominance. The one who has learned to make others act in his place masters not only labor, but time, and time is the substance of power. The common man's mistake is to believe that leadership means doing things together, when in truth it means moving the right pieces without having to touch them. Machiavelli would call this political art, the invisible control that turns another's will into one's own instrument. The power of delegation begins with reading ambition. The strategist observes what each man desires and delivers it in measured doses, converting impulse into useful energy. There is no need to impose authority. It is enough to create emotional dependence. The cold leader does not motivate. He manipulates direction. He understands that every human being works for a price: approval, status, comfort, relevance, and he uses that price to move the game. While the servant believes he is progressing, the strategist accumulates freedom. Every task delegated is an hour gained, and every free hour is an advantage over those still occupied. Machiavelli taught that the prince must not soil his hands with what others can do. Direct touch reduces mystery, and mystery is the cement of power. Delegating is more than distributing work. It is architecting perception. He who commands from a distance creates the illusion of omnipresence. The people believe he is everywhere, when in truth he merely pulls invisible strings. This skill demands coldness, for the desire for total control is itself a form of weakness. The true ruler does not need to see every detail. He only needs to ensure that every detail serves him. The manipulation of others' efforts does not rest on formal authority, but on psychological influence. The strategist does not command. He makes it appear that the idea came from the other. This subtlety transforms resistance into collaboration. The common man, trapped in the morality of sincerity, cannot grasp this. He believes honesty is an unconditional virtue, when in reality it is a tool to be used with calculation. Truth does not need to be spoken, it only needs to be useful. The effective manipulator knows that vanity is more powerful than coercion, and that the right compliment is worth more than any punishment. The power to delegate is the dividing line between the builder and the commander. The former works until he dies. The latter multiplies his reach without moving a muscle. This is the secret Machiavelli would have taught any ambitious man. Mastery begins when you turn the labor of others into an extension of your will. And for that, one needs silence, patience, and a precise reading of human weakness. He who masters the mind, masters the hands. He who masters desire, never needs to work hard again. There is a specific kind of prison that requires no bars. The belief that hard work is synonymous with dignity. This idea, seemingly noble, was implanted to keep man obedient and predictable. He is taught that value lies in effort, not in results, in endurance, not in strategy. Operative dignity is the morality of the submissive, a code created by those who control the game to domesticate those who sustain it. When a man confuses sacrifice with purpose, he becomes a willing captive, believing that suffering is proof of character. Society rewards this behavior with small symbols: a stable salary, superficial recognition, a paternal compliment from a superior. These rewards are the invisible collar that keeps him calm, proud, and productive. He believes he is earning respect, when in truth he is merely confirming his function. The dignity the exhausted man displays is the applause the system gives to those who pose no threat. Machiavelli would recognize this as the most efficient form of governance, making the subject believe that his obedience is virtue, not submission. The man who seeks dignity through hard work fails to see that he is trading autonomy for approval. He surrenders control over his emotions, reacts to praise, and fears disapproval. Power, however, is born from indifference. The strategist does not seek to be seen as dignified. He seeks to be necessary. While the dignified man tries to please, the necessary man imposes presence. That difference changes everything. The dignified is remembered with sympathy. The necessary is feared with respect. One works to be accepted. The other works so that his absence becomes unbearable. The trap of operative dignity also distorts the concept of morality. The working man believes that being good is enough, that honesty will protect him from abuse. But the world is not governed by merit. It is governed by perception. Machiavelli warned that men judge more by their eyes than by their reason. Thus, appearing dignified is not the same as being powerful. The honest worker can be exploited by a charismatic impostor. Dignity without political intelligence is merely perfume on servitude. To escape this trap, one must invert the logic, not to seek dignity through effort, but power through selective utility. Work when it serves you, act when it brings advantage, speak only when silence is no longer enough. The free man proves nothing. He chooses where to invest his energy. The only dignity that matters is the one born from independence, not acceptance. Machiavelli would smile at the man who understands this truth. The virtue of the servant is the ruin of the prince. The world respects those who master their own value, not those who sacrifice themselves to appear good. Most men waste their strength trying to prove that they are moving. They mistake movement for advancement, agitation for progress. They work, speak, and strive, but without direction, effort becomes nothing but noise. Human energy, when scattered, loses its value. When focused, it becomes power. This is what separates the common man from the strategist. The first measures how much he does. The second measures the impact of what he does. Machiavelli would understand that in any form of power, efficiency is superior to intensity. The victor is not the most active, but the most precise. The man who has learned to direct energy knows that every action has a psychological cost. He does not react to everything. He chooses what deserves a response. This restraint is not weakness. It is calculation. Most people act to relieve anxiety, while the strategist waits for the moment when a single move can produce multiple effects. It is the law of leverage. One well-placed gesture is worth more than 1,000 blind attempts. Power is born from this coldness, the ability to withhold energy until the situation bends in your favor. What appears to be patience is, in truth, inner control. Machiavelli would observe that politics is the arena where misdirected energy turns into ruin. The man who talks too much, acts too much, or promises too much wastes what could have been influence. Silence in this context is an economy of force. The strategist speaks only when he intends to shape perception, not when he seeks to be understood. He knows that true power does not belong to the one who exhausts himself to be heard, but to the one who is heard even in silence. Every word he speaks is measured. Every action carries weight. There are no leftovers, no excesses. To direct energy is also to master one's own impulses. Anger, fear, and desire are fuels, but only the cold man knows how to burn them without being consumed. Most explode or repress. The strategist transforms emotion into advantage. He does not flee from his own shadow. He uses it to define his form. Machiavelli would call this the control of passions, the art of keeping reason in command even when the blood boils. Power does not demand the absence of emotion, but the ability to channel it toward specific ends. When energy is directed with precision, a man becomes impenetrable. He does not chase respect. Respect follows him. His presence intimidates because it is refined. Nothing is wasted, not even a glance or a silence. He does not fight every battle, only those that define territory. The rest he observes. That is how power manifests itself, not through exhaustion, but through efficiency. Machiavelli would say that the strength of a prince lies in the economy of gesture, not in the display of courage. The man who understands this learns that the secret of victory is not to fight battles that do not need to be won. Silence is the most sophisticated form of power. It is not the absence of speech, but absolute control over what is revealed. The common man speaks to fill the void. The strategist uses it to expand the void. In a world that worships exposure, silence becomes a threat. It creates tension, imposes presence, and forces others to reveal themselves first. Machiavelli would understand this dynamic as a political mechanism. He who speaks too much exposes his position, while he who observes in silence gathers advantage. Power begins when the tongue obeys the mind, not the other way around. The man who masters silence does not seek to convince, only to understand. He knows that speech is the battlefield where the weak try to prove their worth. While they exhaust themselves explaining intentions, the strategist measures reactions. Every word spoken is a piece exposed on the board, and he prefers to let the opponent show his hand. Silence, in this sense, is espionage disguised as calm. It allows others to reveal more than they should, to expose weaknesses, desires, and insecurities. And when everyone believes the quiet man is passive, he has already mapped the terrain for a precise strike. Machiavelli said that a prince must be loved or feared, but never ridiculed. Silence fulfills that function better than any speech. It protects one's image, sustains mystery, and prevents power from becoming trivial. The man who talks too much becomes predictable. The one who speaks little becomes an enigma, and the enigma in the social game is a weapon. Silence commands respect because it forces others to fill the void with assumptions, and assumptions, almost always, are larger than reality. Thus, the strategist wins before he even acts. Silence is also a form of emotional economy. He who reacts to everything drains himself. He who responds to nothing controls the rhythm. The silent man is not neutral, he is dangerous. No one knows what he thinks, and the unknown is the ground where fear grows. In power relations, calm unsettles more than aggression. The gaze that observes without haste disarms those who live by impulse. Machiavelli would recognize this behavior as the virtue of restraint, the ability to master the instinct to speak even when pride demands an answer. The strategist's silence is action in disguise. He waits for the world to speak too much, then moves once, and with impact. The man who understands this art does not compete for attention, he absorbs it. Noise exposes him. Silence elevates him. That is why the most powerful rarely explain themselves. They do not need to be understood, only perceived. For them, silence is not the absence of sound. It is the sound of authority. Time is the battlefield where every game of power is decided. The impatient treat it as an enemy. The strategist turns it into an ally. Machiavelli would understand time as a political instrument, a force that cannot be controlled but can be used. The common man wants immediate results, seeks quick victories and instant recognition. He is a slave to urgency, incapable of waiting for circumstances to mature. The strategist, on the other hand, understands that every second holds value, either for attack or defense. He does not run against time. He makes time run for him. To wait is not passivity, it is mastery. The man who knows how to wait observes the exhaustion of others, calculates the decay of intentions, and harvests the fruits when everyone else has already given up. Machiavelli saw this patience as a form of cold warfare. Waiting wears down the opponent more than any strike. Time consumes impulsiveness, reveals contradictions, and turns allies into obstacles. He who knows how to use time does not need to win directly. It is enough to remain standing while others destroy themselves through haste. Impatience is the most predictable form of weakness. The modern man has lost this perception. He lives accelerated, reacting to the instant, believing that speed is synonymous with power. But excessive movement is merely noise disguised as progress. True mastery demands controlled rhythm, acting when all others rest, pausing when all others rush. Time is a trap for those who do not understand the cycle of attention. What exposes itself too early, dies too early. Machiavelli would have said that the wise prince acts at the moment when the people expect nothing, for it is then that impact becomes inevitable. To use time as a weapon is to understand that every decision has its ideal climate. A premature word loses strength. A delayed action becomes irrelevant. The strategist operates in the exact interval, the moment when silence has already created enough tension, and the gesture becomes irresistible. He measures the environment as one measures the breath before the strike. This precision turns time into an instrument of psychological power. Those who live in haste become predictable. Those who wait calmly become unpredictable, and the unpredictable, by nature, dominates. The man who masters time does not rush, because he already knows the fate of the hasty. All die of anxiety before achieving anything solid. He understands that time punishes the impulsive and rewards the patient. Therefore, his calmness is not slowness. It is calculation. The power that endures is not the one born quickly, but the one that matures in silence. The strategist prevails because he understands a truth that few can bear. Time does not destroy those who respect it. It destroys those who try to surpass it. For centuries, society has taught that a man's value lies in his work, in what he produces, builds, or delivers. This moral code, created by those who already held power, kept the rest too busy to question who truly benefited from their effort. The modern age merely refined this structure. The new servants wear suits, chase targets, and call their chains purpose. Meanwhile, those who control remain invisible. Machiavelli would understand that true nobility was never found in sweat, but in the ability to decide the fate of those who sweat. The new nobility produces nothing. It manages perception. Its product is control. While the common man strives to be efficient, the dominant man strives to be indispensable. He understands that whoever defines what is valuable controls those who work to obtain it. Modern power lies not in production, but in interpretation. The man who manipulates symbols, narratives, and beliefs shapes the behavior of those who still believe that producing is the same as mattering. Physical strength has become cheap energy. Psychological control is the real currency. Machiavelli would observe that this new elite follows the same logic as the princes of Florence. Keep the people busy, divided, and emotionally exhausted so they never have time to notice who writes the rules. The man who produces is celebrated so that he keeps producing. Praise is the bait that keeps him inside the cycle. The one who controls, however, operates in the shadows. He does not seek applause, he seeks influence. His power lies not in doing, but in making things appear done. He moves the structure without ever exposing himself to it, and the more invisible he becomes, the more power he gathers. The modern man's mistake is confusing visibility with authority. He believes that being seen is the same as being relevant, when in truth it is a sign of vulnerability. The new nobility dominates because it does not need to appear. It delegates, outsources, finances, and silences. True power is quiet, almost imperceptible. When one man boasts about how hard he works, another is profiting from his noise. When one displays his effort, another collects the results. Control does not require movement. It requires patience and a precise reading of human behavior. The man who seeks to rise must abandon the identity of the producer and adopt the posture of the controller. This does not mean ceasing to act, but acting indirectly, with calculation and strategy. Every movement must generate reaction, and every reaction must serve a greater purpose. The worker seeks efficiency, the noble seeks obedience. And Machiavelli had already warned, those who wish to be loved must serve, but those who wish to rule must understand fear. The respect that sustains the new nobility is not born of merit. It is born of the control of perception. The world belongs to those who understand this. True freedom begins when a man stops trying to prove something. As long as there is a need for recognition, he remains a prisoner. The effort to be seen, understood, or admired is the final link in the chain that keeps the individual submissive to the gaze of others. Machiavelli would understand that absolute power does not lie in conquering, but in no longer needing to conquer. When a man acts out of choice rather than necessity, his presence becomes inevitable. The weak seek acceptance. The strong choose the silence of those who have nothing left to justify. Modern society turns trying into a virtue. It glorifies constant effort, endless pursuit, perpetual motion. But this worship of effort is only another disguise for servitude. Those who are always trying reveal that they still depend on approval. The world watches, measures, and judges how hard they strive, and in doing so, keeps control over their self-worth. The man who tries too hard becomes predictable, forever reacting to the desire for validation. True power is born when movement ceases to be reaction and becomes decision. Machiavelli would note that the most feared prince is not the one who fights, but the one who chooses not to. His strength lies in the serenity that precedes action, in the absence of anxiety, in the confidence that requires no proof. He knows that authority is not won through insistence, but through inevitability. The man who does not try becomes an enigma. His calm disarms the competitive. His lack of haste humiliates the desperate. He has already won because he no longer needs to win. His mere presence redefines the game. Power that does not seek to be seen becomes magnetic. The freedom of not needing to try is the rarest state of the human mind. It demands detachment from image, coldness before judgment, and complete mastery over one's own value. The man who reaches this level behaves as if the world is perpetually behind him. He does not chase opportunities. He creates the conditions that draw them in. He does not speak of plans. He simply executes when the moment is right. Time works for him. Circumstances align with him because nothing distracts him with the need to prove that he deserves what he already is. This is the final lesson Machiavelli would leave to the modern man. Constant effort is the golden cage of the disciplined. Calculated indifference is the throne of those who understand the game. True power is internal. It is born from the mind that does not need to react, only to observe and choose. Freedom does not lie in doing everything, but in having the ability to refuse. When a man no longer needs to try, everything around him begins to try to reach him. In that silence, he becomes what everyone seeks and no one commands.